What is up, my friends? Welcome to another video. In this video, we're going to talk about rate hikes. We're going to talk about the Fed. We're going to talk about the US dollar. We're going to talk about all that fun stuff. So the Fed, or the Federal Reserve, runs the interest rates for the US dollar, in case you didn't know. In 3 weeks, the Fed will hike rates for the 9th time to a range of 2.25 to 2.50%. How it works is based off of BPS, or base points, which are equal to 1/100th of a percent. And if we just look at this here, just look at it, would you? Pretty easy to see. We had one rate hike in 2015, which was just simply 25 base points. Another 25 in December of 2016, a year later. Then 2017, activity picked up quite dramatically. 3 25 base point hikes. 2018 so far, we have 3 base point rate hikes so far, with another expected to occur. So now we're going to be at we're currently at a 200 to 225 base point spread, and it's going to go up to about 250. So I think they'll do another 25 base point hike. The point is that wouldn't it make more sense to operate off of like real data that you're getting in the streets, that you're getting from the market, that you're getting from, you know, the United States and its people, versus this pre-planned, pre-scheduled thing that you just think is going to work? And it just, you know, the debt balance gets out of whack, a couple other variables start to slide, and their immediate solution is always, let's just do a rate hike. I guess I just don't understand. To further go along with this, dollar headed for multiple year slide, JP Morgan Asset predicts. Okay, so JP Morgan Asset Manager predicted this. It makes sense. This is Gabriela Santos. Okay, ultimately the trajectory is for a downward move in the dollar over a multi-year period. There's a lot of interesting things going on right now. The US is losing its global reserve foothold position that it had due to a doubt that we can pay our debt. And when the doubt moves in, then you lose your power. That's how these things work. They're that fickle. It has happened now over the last couple months. I mean, the coming bankruptcy of the American empire. This is like the 3rd or 4th piece that Zero Hedge has run, specifically talking through the same bullet points. Hey, we're $22 trillion in debt. Current federal budget deficit at over $800 billion. This senator said this Congress member said that. This isn't happening. This is happening. And it's not even, you know, you can tell it's not the first time they wrote this. Piece like this is because they're not even referencing like any kind of piece. Like, they're not referencing any kind of piece to back this up, and that should tell you that this isn't the first time that they've written about it, because Zero Hedge kind of follows the same policy that when it's the first time they write about something, they try and have a ton of proof, a ton of pieces to back it, a ton of data points. Now, 3rd, 4th one down, they're not even doing citations of their own stuff. So it's kind of interesting. But there's a lot of people calling for this. Peter Schiff is calling for this. He's fairly outspoken gold bug. Overall, I don't think that the rate hike is going to be a good thing. And I don't think that their plan, and I don't think that their solution is going to actually fix the problem, because this will only continue. And the more rate hikes you do, it not only tells you people, but it tells the rest of the world that you can't do your job. You can't pay your debt. You can't handle your shit. What I wanted to talk about last is just what I think would be interesting is if there was actually audits done. Recently, I talked to you guys about the audit that was done on the Pentagon, which was an absolute joke. They all thought that they weren't going to pass, which they didn't. But besides that, what I think would be really interesting, though, is to audit different parts of the government, but also, too, to audit the Fed. And are we looking at that separate as the US government, and audit both in terms of how much gold and silver and commodities that they hold in case something were to need to be reset or changed with the US dollar? I think that would be really, really interesting, because all that's kind of swept under the rug, and all that's kind of kept hush-hush. So how much the central banks hold is kept separate over here. Are we going to treat it the same with the Federal Reserve and in the US government? They're all separate in their own categories, and how much do they all own of each? And then who's actually the owner of, you know, some of this property and some of these deed deals that have gone bad with our debt to, most notably, China? What do they now own, or what do they now have rights over in the United States? I think would be another interesting question that would help people really start to get a very vivid picture of the true state of the US economy and what's going on. Right now, what we just see is a bloated debt sheet and no real way out of it. Will this be the time that we finally ask for more accountability and more transparency? Who knows? But for now, we get another rate hike. Yay. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a breaking report. That's right, your favorite Fed Chairman Jerome Powell just spoke at the Economic Club of New York. New York. And your traditional fluff piece, but what was interesting about it is we saw an S&P 500 pump, small one, it's back down now. Since then, we have a lot of, this is an interesting development that I want you all to pay attention to, is because we have the G20 literally starting soon. Today, it should be starting in Argentina. There's some key meetings that will be happening off the books with China. We've got the little Putin summit happening with Trump. These are big flexion points for what's going to happen and be reflected in the strength of the US dollar. But I want to talk about some of the things that was talked about here. Under his new approach for financial stability, the new approach will be divided into three parts. First, build up the strength and resilience of the financial system. Second, develop and apply a broad framework for monitoring financial stability on an ongoing basis. And third, explain the new approach as transparently as possible so that the public and its representatives in Congress can provide oversight and hold us accountable for this work. I find that very interesting because distributed ledger technology could be applied like that, and it would hold all of these branches, all of these companies, organizations, structures to a higher level of accountability than they are now. I shared with you the Pentagon audit, which was an absolute joke. First time ever being audited. They didn't think they were going to pass, let alone do it. And what do you know? They didn't pass it. But we should be thankful. The funny thing about all this is that the US taxpayers always foot the bill. When there's a bank bailout, the US taxpayers foot the bill. If the fiat dollar were to collapse, the taxpayers foot the bill. It's always on the taxpayers. So it just feels like a little too little, a little too late. And this, what we're operating at with the Fed should be way more transparent than it is now. I really hope that they do something here in the time, in the months, years to come. This transparently as possible piece, I hope is actually done. And I hope this oversight is actually done. You know, if the taxpayers are paying for it, why not create some sort of oversight committee which is public, the public, the US taxpayers, in some sort of way? I don't know what that would look like, but I'm interested to explore it. You know, I really am. And I can't be the only one that's thinking this way. So the piece talks quite a bit about, like, we've had unprecedented low interest rates since the bank bailout in the financial crisis of 2008 and 2009, and now we need to bring those levels up, the interest rates up, to fit a more stable economy, which I would agree. That makes sense. So this financial stability stuff, this financial stability report and this monitoring systematic risks, I didn't really get into that too much. I wanted to share a couple pieces with you from the bit that I liked. Now, I did not dive into the financial stability report and this monitoring systematic risk. I think it's interesting that they don't really talk much about this transparency part of it. Again, they talk a lot about the vulnerabilities and the risks, and end it by saying that the financial risks are moderate. I've reviewed a few of the key facts that inform our thinking about financial stability, and you will find a great deal more detail in the new report. You will also find the report does not come to a bottom line conclusion. As I noted earlier, we have limited experience with this monitoring, and there is no widely accepted basis for reaching a bottom line. I think in conclusion, what you guys should really start to realize is that these guys are playing a big experiment game as well. They are not experts, and they're experimenting with how to print money, how to manage the, you know, economic system and the monetary system, just as much as, you know, you're playing the same game when you play Monopoly. They have more experience, in which should lead to smarter decisions. I guess time will tell. They got a tall order in front of them with what's going on with the Fed, with what's going on with the US debt, and that all affects the monetary system, and that is up to them, the Federal Reserve, to create a lot of that and to monitor it. So interesting development, but there you've got it. Okay, cool. That's all I got for you, my friends. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you like this video, click the like button, or just want to show support for the channel and this video, click the like button. Comment below. I'd love to interact with you, hear your thoughts on this. And if this is your first time to the channel and like what we're doing, click the subscribe button, hit the bell notification. Be on the lookout. More videos dropping soon, my friends. Bye.